I was sitting in my garage at 11 o'clock at night, grease still under my fingernails when my phone lit up with a text from my mom. "Your brother needs help. Family comes first." I stared at those words for a long time, my mind drifting back 3 years to my wedding day. That was when Trevor stood in front of 50 people and called my wife Sarah and me low class because we chose a backyard ceremony with a food truck instead of some fancy country club reception. Now his tech startup had burned through $2 million, and somehow I was supposed to be the one to save him. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with family members who only show up when they need something, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how this whole mess played out. Trust me, you will want to stick around for this one. Growing up, Trevor and I were nothing alike. He was the golden child, the one my parents pinned all their hopes on. While I was tinkering with engines in our driveway at 15, Trevor was getting straight A's and applying to fancy private schools. My mom, Patricia, never let me forget it either. "Why cannot you be more like Trevor? He is going to Stanford." Those words became the soundtrack of my teenage years. I did not mind, honestly. I loved working with my hands. There was something satisfying about taking apart an engine and putting it back together, making something broken run smoothly again. So after high school, I went to trade school while Trevor headed off to California with a full scholarship. He came back 4 years later with a computer science degree and an ego the size of Silicon Valley. His first job paid 6 figures right out of college, and he made sure everyone knew it. Family dinners became uncomfortable showcases of his success. He would talk about stock options and venture capital while I quietly ate my dinner, knowing that any mention of my work would be met with a patronizing smile. "You still fixing cars, Barry? That is nice." Real blue-collar stuff. But I did not care what Trevor thought. I had a plan. I saved every dollar I could from my job at a local repair shop. And at 23, I opened my own garage in our small Pennsylvania town. It was tiny, just 2 bays and a small office, but it was mine. I worked 12-hour days, built a reputation for honest work and fair prices, and slowly, steadily, my business grew. By the time I was 25, I had 3 regular mechanics working for me and a waiting list of customers. That was also the year I met Sarah. She walked into my shop one afternoon with a rattling noise in her Honda Civic, and I knew immediately I was in trouble. Not with the car that was just a loose heat shield, but with her. She was a 3rd-grade teacher at the elementary school across town, with kind eyes and a laugh that made my whole day better. We talked for 20 minutes about her students while I fixed her car, and by the time she left, I had worked up the courage to ask if she wanted to grab coffee sometime. 3 years later, we were planning our wedding. Sarah and I were practical people. We both came from modest backgrounds, and we had goals. We wanted to buy a house. I wanted to expand the garage, maybe add another bay. Sarah wanted to start saving for kids. So when it came to the wedding, we made a decision that felt right for us. We would keep it simple. We planned the ceremony for her parents' backyard, a beautiful property with old oak trees and a view of the rolling hills beyond. We invited 50 people, just close friends and family. Sarah found a gorgeous dress at a local boutique for $400. We hired a food truck that served incredible tacos and barbecue instead of paying thousands for a catering hall. We made our own decorations, bought flowers from a farmer's market, and asked a friend who was an amateur photographer to shoot the day. The whole thing cost us about $8,000, and we were thrilled with it. It felt authentic. It felt like us. Trevor flew in from San Francisco a month before the wedding. He had been distant for a while, busy with his startup, which was apparently doing amazing things according to my mother's constant updates. Over dinner at our parents' house, Sarah and I excitedly shared our wedding plans. I could see Trevor's expression change with every detail. When I mentioned the food truck, he actually laughed out loud. "A backyard wedding with a food truck. Seriously, Barry, that is so low rent." I felt Sarah's hand tense in mine under the table. I tried to laugh it off. "We are trying to be smart with money, Trev. We want to buy a house." He leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine glass like he was some kind of connoisseur. That is the difference between us, little brother. I invest in tech startups that could change the world. You invest in what oil changes and tire rotations. My dad Raymond cleared his throat uncomfortably. My mom jumped in quickly. Trevor, your brother is doing what he thinks is best. But Trevor was on a roll now. Yeah, well, when I get married, it will be at a 5-star resort in Maui or something. Not some DIY Pinterest disaster. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. Sarah squeezed my hand harder. It was our cue to leave. We made polite excuses and drove home in silence. That night, Sarah held me while I tried to process the hurt I felt. He is just insecure, she said softly. Happy people do not tear others down like that. I wanted to believe her, but the damage was done. The day of our wedding arrived in early June, and despite everything, it was beautiful. The weather cooperated perfectly with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze. Sarah looked absolutely stunning in her simple dress, walking down the makeshift aisle between rows of folding chairs we had rented. I cried when I saw her not caring. Who noticed? Our friend officiated a short, sweet ceremony that focused on the promises we were making to each other, not on impressing anyone else. The reception was exactly what we hoped for. The food truck parked near the edge of the property, serving up plates of incredible barbecue brisket and fish tacos. People raved about the food. We had string lights hung between the trees, a small dance floor we had built ourselves, and a playlist of our favorite songs. Everyone was laughing, dancing, genuinely having a good time. I remember thinking this was the happiest day of my life. Trevor showed up half an hour late wearing an expensive Armani suit that probably cost more than our entire wedding budget. He air-kissed Sarah on the cheek, shook my hand limply, and immediately found the bar. Throughout the ceremony and dinner, I watched him check his Rolex repeatedly and type on his phone. When it came time for the best man speech, my stomach dropped. I had not wanted Trevor as my best man, but my mother had practically begged me. He is your brother Barry. It would mean so much to him. Looking back, I realized Trevor never actually wanted the role. It was just another thing my mom pushed on both of us. Trevor stood up, tapping his glass with a fork until everyone quieted down. He swayed slightly, and I realized he had been drinking more than I thought. I have to hand it to Barry and Sarah, he began, his voice carrying across the backyard. They really know how to stretch a dollar. A few people laughed nervously, unsure if this was a compliment or not. I mean, who needs a fancy venue when you have got a perfectly good backyard, right? Who needs a real caterer when you can get tacos from a truck? Sarah's face turned bright red beside me. I felt my jaw clench. Trevor raised his glass higher, clearly enjoying himself now. Here is to my little brother, the mechanic. May your marriage be as solid as the engines you fix. And Barry, when you are ready to upgrade from this low-class lifestyle, give me a call. I will show you how the other half lives. The silence that followed was deafening. A few people clapped awkwardly, more out of confusion than approval. My dad looked furious but said nothing. My mom was frozen with a fake smile plastered on her face. Sarah's parents looked horrified. I tried to smile, tried to play it off like it was just a joke, but inside I was falling apart. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and my brother had just humiliated us in front of everyone we cared about. The rest of the reception was a blur. People came up to us with apologetic looks, trying to pretend nothing had happened. Sarah and I danced our first dance, but the joy had been sucked out of the moment. I kept seeing the hurt in her eyes, and knowing I could not fix it. After most guests had left, I found Trevor in the parking area, leaning against his Tesla and scrolling through his phone. I walked up to him, trying to keep my voice steady. What the hell was that, Trevor? That was my wedding day. He looked up, barely focused. Oh, come on. I was just joking around. You are too sensitive, man. You called me low class in front of everyone. You embarrassed Sarah. He rolled his eyes. Look, Barry, I love you, but let us be real here. You fix cars for a living. I am building the next big thing in Silicon Valley. We are just in different leagues. Different leagues. I repeated, my voice rising. We are brothers. Yeah, and one of us is going to retire at 40 with millions in the bank. The other one is going to be changing oil until he is 70. Think about it. He got into his Tesla and drove off, leaving me standing there in the gravel parking lot of my in-laws' property, still wearing my wedding suit, feeling like I had been stabbed in the back by the person who was supposed to have it. Sarah found me a few minutes later and wrapped her arms around me without saying a word. We stood there until the sun started to set, and I made a silent decision. I was done with Trevor. Done trying to win his approval, done accepting his cruelty disguised as jokes. I had Sarah, I had my business, and that was enough. 3 years passed. Sarah and I bought a small house on the outskirts of town, a 3-bedroom ranch with a big yard, and a garage I could use for side projects. My business continued to grow steadily. I hired 2 more mechanics, expanded to 3 bays, and built a reputation as the most reliable shop in the county. We were not rich, but we were comfortable. We had savings about $90,000 that we had carefully accumulated, planning to use some of it when we started a family. And that family was coming. Sarah was 8 months pregnant, glowing and excited and slightly terrified, just like me. We had converted the spare bedroom into a nursery, painted it. A soft yellow, assembled a crib that took me 3 hours, and a lot of cursing to figure out. Life was good. Better than good. It was exactly what I had always wanted. I had not spoken to Trevor once in those 3 years. He never apologized, never reached out. According to my mom's occasional updates, which I tried not to encourage, Trevor was killing it in Silicon Valley. His startup had secured funding $2 million from some big investors. He was living in an expensive apartment in San Francisco, driving that Tesla, living the high life. Good for him, I thought, and meant it. We were on different paths, and I was finally at peace with that. Then one Tuesday evening in late September, my mom called. I was at the shop finishing up some paperwork while my guys closed up for the day. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Barry, I need to talk to you about Trevor. Her voice was tight, worried in a way that made my stomach drop. What about him? There was a long pause. He has not been returning my calls for a few months. Your father and I were getting worried, so we reached out to one of his friends from college. The story came out in pieces, each one worse than the last. The startup had failed spectacularly. They had burned through all $2 million in less than 18 months, chasing a product nobody wanted. The investors pulled out, the company dissolved, and Trevor lost everything. He had been fired from his backup job for poor performance, lost his apartment, and was currently couch surfing at a friend's place. I am sorry to hear that, I said carefully, not sure what else to say. Barry, he needs help. Real help. He needs family right now. What kind of help? Financial help. He needs money to get back on his feet. Maybe find a new apartment, buy a car, just until he can find another job. Mom, Sarah, and I just bought a house. We have a baby coming in 4 weeks. Our savings are for emergencies and for our kid. I know, honey. I am not asking you to solve all his problems. Just maybe he could stay with you for a little while, just until he figures things out. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar pressure of family obligation pressing down on me. We do not have a spare room. The nursery is set up. He could sleep on the couch. Please, Barry. I know things have been difficult between you two, but he is your brother. Family comes first. Those words again. Family comes first. As if Trevor had shown any indication that I was family when he publicly humiliated me at my wedding. But guilt is a powerful thing, especially when it is your mother on the other end of the line. I will talk to Sarah. Sarah was not thrilled when I brought it up that night. She was folding tiny baby clothes on the couch, her belly round and beautiful, and she looked up at me with immediate concern. Barry, I love you, but your brother was cruel to us. To me. And now we are supposed to welcome him into our home, I know. I do not want to do it either. But he is in bad shape, and my mom is worried. She was quiet for a long moment, her hand resting on her stomach where our daughter was kicking. 2 weeks. He can stay for 2 weeks. But he needs to look for work, help around the house, and treat us with respect. And if he says one unkind word about our life, he is gone. I agreed, immediately grateful she was willing to compromise at all. I called Trevor and told him he could come stay. He arrived 3 days later in an Uber, carrying 2 suitcases and looking nothing like the confident tech bro from my wedding day. His beard was grown out and scraggly, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes tired. He actually looked humble for the first time in his life. Thanks for this, man. I really appreciate it. He looked around our modest living room. This is a nice place you have got. Those first few days were okay. Trevor slept on the couch, stayed out of the way, and seemed genuinely subdued. But 2 weeks turned into a month, then 6 weeks. He was not looking for work, at least not seriously. He would sit on the couch all day watching television or scrolling through his phone. When I asked about job applications, he would say he was waiting to hear back from places, that the job market was tough. Meanwhile, he contributed nothing to groceries, nothing to utilities, and barely helped around the house. And the comments started creeping back in. Little ones at first. This house is pretty small, huh? Or that truck of yours is really showing its age. Sarah would shoot me looks across the dinner table, her patience wearing thinner by the day. She was 9 months pregnant now, exhausted and uncomfortable, and the last thing she needed was a houseguest who could not even load the dishwasher. Then one evening my parents came over for dinner. We were eating takeout because Sarah was too pregnant to cook, and I had worked late, and my mom brought up what she called an opportunity for Trevor. He had reconnected with an old Stanford buddy who wanted to start a new venture, something in the artificial intelligence space. It was a ground floor opportunity, a chance for Trevor to get back on top. There was just one problem. They needed capital. Specifically, they needed $120,000. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. That is a lot of money. Your father and I have talked about it. My mom's voice was careful, practiced. We can contribute $30,000 from our retirement savings. The math was instant and obvious. You need me to come up with $90,000. Trevor leaned forward, suddenly animated in a way he had not been in weeks. Barry, this is it. This is my chance to get back in the game. My buddy is brilliant, the idea is solid, and I know I can make it work this time. I just need the capital. How exactly am I supposed to come up with $90,000? You could sell the garage. Trevor said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Or take out a loan against it. Small business loans are easy to get these days. I actually laughed, a short, bitter sound. Sell my garage. Are you serious right now? It is just a small auto shop, Barry. You can rebuild it later. But this is my shot at redemption. This could change everything. My mom reached across the table and put her hand on mine. Barry, please. He is your brother. This is what family does. We help each other when we are down. The room felt like it was tilting. What family does? Where was this family when Trevor called me low class at my wedding? Where was this support when I was building my business from nothing? Silence fell over the table. My dad looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Trevor's face hardened. I said I was sorry about that wedding stuff. You said sorry 3 years later because you needed something. That is not an apology, Trevor. That is manipulation. Sarah stood up then, her hand pressed against her lower back where our daughter was making her presence known. She had been quiet through dinner, but now her voice cut through the tension with calm authority. With all due respect, this is not happening. My mom turned to her, surprised. Sarah, this is family business. And I am family too. Sarah looked at each of them in turn. Barry built that garage from nothing. We have sacrificed for 7 years to save what we have saved. I am due in 3 weeks. You are asking us to risk everything we have worked for, everything we have built for our daughter, for someone who has shown us nothing but contempt. Trevor stood up now too. I made a mistake. Okay, people make mistakes. I am trying to apologize and move forward. Sarah's laugh was sharp. Making a mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. What you did was deliberate cruelty. You mocked our choices, belittled Barry's work, and made me feel small on the day I married the man I love. And now, after 3 years of silence, you show up needing a place to live and $120,000, and we are supposed to just forget all of that. I looked at my wife standing there with our child inside her, defending us with more strength than I had shown in years, and something clicked into place. She was right. She was absolutely right. Trevor, I am not selling my garage. I am not taking out a loan. And you need to move out by the end of this week. Trevor's face went red. Are you kidding me? I am your brother. You are my brother when you need something. But when I needed you to just be decent on my wedding day, you could not manage it. When I needed you to respect my wife, you could not do that either. When I was building my business and could have used support or even just kindness, where were you, showing off your Tesla and talking about how we are in different leagues? My mom's voice shook. Barry, please reconsider. What will people think? Something about that question. The idea that appearances mattered more than what was right broke whatever guilt I had left. I do not care what people think anymore, Mom. I have spent my whole life being compared to Trevor, being told I was not good enough, that my work was not impressive enough, that my choices were not smart enough. Well, you know what? I am good enough. I have a business I built with my own hands. I have a wife who loves me and stands by me. I have a daughter on the way. I do not need Trevor's approval anymore, and I do not need to sacrifice my family's security to save him from the consequences of his own failure. My dad spoke for the first time that evening, his voice cold. Your mother and I are very disappointed in you, Barry. Those words would have destroyed me 3 years ago. Now they just felt sad. I can live with that, Dad. They left shortly after Trevor, grabbing his suitcases with angry, jerky movements. He did not say goodbye. My mom cried on the way out. My dad would not look at me. The door closed behind them, and the house fell into heavy silence. Sarah came over and put her arms around me as best she could with her belly between us. You did the right thing, I know. But it does not feel good. It will. Give it time. The following 3 months were hard in different ways. Trevor moved in with my parents temporarily, which created its own set of tensions in their household, according to my mom's increasingly rare and terse text messages. She barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was clear she blamed me for not being the bigger person. Some extended family members weighed in with their opinions, most of them on Trevor's side. He is family, they said. You should have helped him. Easy for them to say when they were not being asked to mortgage their future. But in the middle of that family storm, something beautiful happened. Sarah went into labor on a Tuesday morning, 3 days past her due date. 12 hours later, I held my daughter Emma for the first time. She was tiny and perfect, with a full head of dark hair and Sarah's nose. As I looked down at her, feeling her small weight in my arms, any doubt I had about my decision evaporated completely. This was what mattered, this tiny person who depended on me, my wife who had stood beside me, the life we were building together. Trevor found a job about a month after he moved out, nothing glamorous, just an office position at a mid-sized tech company in another city. He moved there without saying goodbye to me. My mom called to let me know, her voice still cool but thawing slightly. He's doing okay, she said. Not great, but okay. I am glad, I told her honestly. And I was. I did not want Trevor to suffer. I just did not want to be responsible for saving him at the cost of my own family's well-being. The real shift came about 6 months after Emma was born. My dad called me on a Sunday afternoon. I almost did not answer, bracing for another lecture about family obligations. Instead, his voice was quiet, almost sheepish. Barry, I owe you an apology. I waited, not sure what to say. Your mother and I have been living with Trevor these past months, and we have seen things. The way he does not take responsibility for anything. The way he expects everyone else to solve his problems. We pushed you to help him because we thought that was what parents are supposed to do, support their children no matter what. But we were not helping Trevor. We were enabling him. And we asked you to do the same at the cost of your own family. That was wrong. His words hit me harder than I expected, and I felt my throat tighten. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. You did the right thing, son. I see that now. And for what it is worth, I am proud of you. Proud of what you have built. Proud of the man you have become. We talked for a while after that, really talked in a way we had not in years. It felt like a door opening that I had not even realized was closed. My mom took longer to come around, but eventually she did. She came to visit Emma when my daughter was 7 months old, and I watched her hold her granddaughter with tears streaming down her face. "I have missed so much," she whispered. "I am so sorry, Barry." Trevor never apologized, not really. We have exchanged brief, polite texts on birthdays and holidays, but the relationship we had as kids is gone. Maybe it was never really there to begin with. Maybe I had just been holding on to an idea of brotherhood that did not match reality. And I found I was okay with that. Not every relationship can be salvaged, and not every family bond is worth preserving at any cost. These days, my life looks pretty much like it did before Trevor showed up needing help. The garage is thriving. I hired another mechanic last month, and I am looking at expanding into the shop space next door. Sarah went back to teaching part-time, and Emma is walking now, getting into everything, making us laugh every single day. We have dinner with my parents once a month, and the conversation is easier now, more honest. They ask about the garage, admire Emma's latest milestones, and nobody compares me to Trevor anymore. I was in the garage late one evening last week, finishing up some paperwork after everyone else had gone home. Emma was asleep in her car seat beside my desk, her little chest rising and falling peacefully. I looked around at the shop I had built brick by brick, oil change by oil change, and felt a sense of peace I had not known was possible. I learned something important through all of this. Family is not about blind loyalty. It is not about sacrificing everything you have worked for just because someone shares your blood. Real family is about respect. It is about showing up when it matters, not just when you need something. It is about supporting each other's choices, even when those choices look different from what you would have picked. Trevor and I will always be brothers by birth, but Sarah and Emma, they are my family by choice. And I chose them over Trevor's pride and my parents' expectations. I would make that choice again every single time without hesitation. Sometimes the hardest thing you will ever do is set a boundary with the people you love. But sometimes it is also the most necessary thing. Because on the other side of that boundary is your peace, your integrity, and the life you have worked so hard to build. And that is worth protecting even when it costs you relationships you thought would last forever. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting what you have built? Have you ever set a boundary that others called selfish but you knew was necessary? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and I would love to hear your stories. If this resonated with you, smash that like button. Subscribe to hear more real stories about navigating family drama and finding your own path. And share this with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to put their own family first. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you feel a little less alone in whatever boundaries you are trying to set. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember that you do not owe anyone your peace.